SBC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
In the latest episode of iGaming Daily's Path to Lisbon Limited Series, we'll be looking back at a panel session titled TalkSPORT Bet, Leveraging Brand and Media, which took place at SBC Summit Barcelona last year. SBC's Managing Director Andrew McCarron was joined by BV Group's Chief Commercial Officer Brent Almeida, and the two discussed how TalkSPORT and BetVictor can leverage each other as a huge media presence and gain a competitive advantage in the market. This discussion will be approached again, but from a more concerning angle, as LiveScore's CEO Sam Sadi will be speaking on a panel titled "Has Convergence of Sports Media and Betting Failed?" Sadi will be explaining how he believes convergence has been attempted so far, whether it's already dead, and if there has been any real success around the strategy. For more information on SBC Summit Lisbon, links will be left in the description below. But for now, Andy, take it away.
Thanks very much. Yes, had a bit of a change of format today because unfortunately Gareth from TalkSPORT Bet couldn't join us. So me and Brent are just going to have an intimate conversation that you're all welcome to watch. Brent here, he's the CCO of BV Group, whose main brand you'll know as BetVictor. They've also got several other brands around the country, around the globe, should I say. You've recently, in the last 12 months, sort of rebranded BetVictor as BV Group. Can you tell us some of the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, sure. So I think most, any of the Brits in the audience are probably familiar with BetVictor. But for those who aren't, just the quick background. Business origins go back to the 1940s, started off as an off-track bookmaker. That business was inherited by Victor Chandler in the 1970s, one of the big personalities of our industry. And then with regulation and technology over the times, evolved into telebetting, obviously online betting, and then was famously the holder of license #1 in Gibraltar for remote gambling, and was the first UK operator to move its full operations and headquarters to Gibraltar in the late 90s, which really transformed the industry going forward. In more recent years, the business has changed quite a bit. So as you said, it's most well known for the BetVictor B2C brand. When I first joined back about 4 years ago, it was really with the objective to start to leverage BetVictor's in-house technology and decades of operating experience to launch third-party brands. And initially through brand license agreements, where we then use our own license and really our experience and resources to fully operate that brand. I think in the 4 years since then, this year, roughly 25 to 30% of our business will actually come from non-BetVictor brands, which is pretty incredible when you think about an evolution over the course of 4 years. And through that time, we've done a number of partnerships with media companies. So it's changed quite a bit, and that drove the decision earlier this year to create a new umbrella brand called BV Group, which really reflects the fact that we're now a technology and services company that operates a portfolio of brands in various markets around the world.
So one of the reasons we're here today is to talk about the deal with TalkSPORT Bet. I'm not sure how many of you here are familiar with TalkSPORT. We've got a little video if you want to play that, just to show the work you've been doing with them.
Yeah, this video will just play in the background. I'm not going to present anything. It's just some images that give you a sense of the brand and some of the things we're doing with the betting brand behind the scenes. Obviously, if you have any questions on it, anything you see, you can ask them at the end. But for those who don't know, so TalkSPORT, who is TalkSPORT? The largest sport radio station in the world, primarily focused on UK and Ireland, where they have, I think it's now between 3 and 4 unique monthly listeners. They've got extensive audio rights for major sport competitions around the world, including global rights to Premiership football. In the past few years, they've expanded aggressively into the digital space. So creating engaging content through social media channels on TalkSport.com and through their TalkSport Edge app. So how did we do the deal with them? It was 2021, and coincidentally, we were talking to News Corp, who is TalkSport's ultimate parent company, about a very different media deal in a different part of the world. We had just, in the past year, we had launched Build Bet in Germany, which was through a brand partnership with Axel Springer, and we had launched Harp Bingo in the UK through a brand deal with Global Media and Entertainment in the UK. So we had a bit of a track record there. As that came out through those discussions, they then introduced us to the head of betting and gaming at TalkSport at the time, who was actually Gareth's predecessor. Obviously, with the strength of that brand, it was very interesting for us. We weren't necessarily looking for another sports brand in the UK, but with TalkSport's reach and recognition, it was definitely attractive for us. So, those conversations, it was probably one of the longest negotiations I've ever done. It took about 15 months, I think, to get that deal done. But, definitely worth it in the end.
I mean, obviously, TalkSport, one of their main clients are taking gambling brands as advertisers, so I'm sure that factored in complicated discussions a little bit.
So that was definitely discussed at the time, but I think when TalkSport was weighing their options, one of the initial decisions is, do we just continue as an affiliate? And can we sort of supercharge that, through a more focused affiliate strategy? I think there are certain media brands where it's much more interesting for them to actually go the full step and create a new betting brand around their media brand. And I think TalkSport definitely saw the much more significant long-term upside potential of doing that.
I mean, you obviously can't go into specific commercial terms of the deal, but what were the other commercial considerations that made it right for both sides of the party?
Yeah, so not even specific terms, but I think the important thing for us was around commercial structure of the deal. I mentioned some of the other media partnerships that we've entered into. There are many more that we said no to along the way. And one of the sort of red lines that we created in those, I guess, deal evaluation processes was making sure that the media partner on the other side of the table, first and foremost, wanted to create a successful betting brand and business. A lot of times what we were seeing were media partners coming to the table, and the first thing they wanted to discuss, or the first thing in their proposed terms on an RFP, was, we expect you to spend X amount of money, as part of your marketing budget through our media channels every year. And it became very clear that, sure, while they were interested in having their brand attached to a successful betting business, that wasn't the first interest in mind. And they were seeing this as, yet another stream of revenue for their advertising business.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the good thing about TalkSport was we crossed that bridge right away. And, they were very much intent on leveraging their brand for the creation of a new betting brand and profitable betting business.
So as part of that whole process, more on the educational side of things, because like you said, there's been other media brands that have said, right, we're getting this many people, we're going to convert 50% of them into bettors. I suppose in the UK you've had massive success on one side, and also big crash and burn, not to mention sun bets or anything like that. Does that help sort of make sure you're both on the same page to start?
Look, the success of these partnerships is not always guaranteed. And I think, a lot of people, we've seen failures in the past where the thinking was, there's a strong brand, there's a lot of recognition and reach, reskin a betting site, and, that traffic will just come. And it doesn't work like that. I mean, you need a strong brand, of course. You need that strong reach. But there are big differences in brands. And I think one of the things that set TalkSport apart from us was the fact that not only were they a well-known brand, but through their expansion into digital channels, they were creating this really engaging community around sport and how people talk about sport. And that has a massive benefit on not only your ability to convert customers onto the real money gaming site, but also to retain those customers. And that's a key element of, that successful media partnership strategy. It can't just be a strong brand. You have to have that community and engagement as well. And then I think what we brought to the table, which is also absolutely essential, is a market-leading product. So, not just a sportsbook product, but all the things that come with that. So, under one roof with us, you have your PAM, you have your sportsbook with full risk management and trading, you have an in-house CRM tool, you have all the underlying infrastructure that supports our UK business and a license as well. So for a media brand to have a prospective partner that says, you continue to focus on media, what you do well, and you focus on new ways to drive traffic to us and help us convert that traffic, we will do all the rest. You don't have to worry about a license. You don't have to worry about, a fragmented solution where you have one partner providing this, another providing this. We were able to come to the table and say, you focus on what you do well. We're going to focus on what we do well and bring that to the table from you. And then together we can focus on collaboration to make it as successful as possible. And I think that solution was at the time and still is really unique in the market.
I mean, would you say TalkSPORT Bet is probably one of your more higher profile partners in this space? Is it going to be a good showcase for what you could do to potential other brands?
I think it's high profile in the UK market. Obviously, most of their audience is in the UK and Ireland. We've just launched TalkSPORT Bet in Ireland in July, so we're already expanding the brand outside of the UK. We don't see ourselves as a B2B supplier that's going to have this long list of clients and we give them an off-the-shelf solution. So, as from a UK market perspective, we already operate 3 sports-led brands in the market, one of which is BetVictor. We operate Heart Bingo, so a bingo and casino brand with no sports. For us right now, I think TalkSPORT as a high-profile demonstration of what we can do is actually more important in other territories. So, where we look to expand our global business into, say, LATAM or other North American markets, BetVictor doesn't have the brand reach or recognition there. So from a new market strategy or new market entry perspective, we'd actually much rather go in with a local brand partner, the equivalent of a TalkSPORT in Brazil or another territory. So I think in that respect, TalkSPORT is high profile in the UK, but we can tell this story to media brands in the other market and demonstrate how we can do this successfully in a way that really benefits them.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, he said it was a long negotiation with News International and TalkSPORT, but they obviously must have been sort of scouting around a bit more. I mean, obviously Gareth can't be here to tell us this, but from your discussions with him, what made him choose BV Group? Would you say what was it? What was your secret sauce?
Yeah, I get to do the sales pitch now without Gareth here. Look, I think for many of the reasons I already discussed, what we bring to the table from a product perspective was very important. Also, as I said, the fact that we let them focus on what they do well, and we handle the full betting and gaming operation is definitely critical for them in their decision-making process. But I think, again, when you look at what's required for success in these media deals, beyond the right commercial structure, beyond the market-leading product, you also have to have confidence that, that the team is there to support it. You need to have, digital marketing experts that can drive acquisition, conversion, retention of those customers. I do think you see other deals in the space where, again, the thought process is you put a strong brand onto something and people are just going to show up and then give you money. And it doesn't work like that. You have to have, all of these boxes ticked to have a successful media partnership. And I think they saw with our decades of B2C operating experience that we brought that to the table for them as well. And that was really important. I think one of the interesting things they said right away was, we don't want a supplier, we want a partner. And, I think that really set the tone for the relationship early on. While it still took long to get the deal done, I don't know who was playing hard to get there, but I can say from the early days of the conversation, I think both sides could tell that it was a really, really good fit. So yeah, they had to go through all of the different options that they had in front of them. But I think for all the reasons I've described, Maybe it wasn't an easy decision, but I think, even in the early days, we've demonstrated it was probably the right one.
I suppose the other thing that you've got to sort of flesh out is almost your rules of engagement in the market, because you've got BetVictor, pretty high brand recognition site. You're also operating other white labels in that market. How did you sort of go about that conversation?
Yeah, so it was definitely discussed, and I think when it was first raised was probably similar to how you're questioning it. How does the media brand get comfortable with you operating competing B2C brands? And I think the more time we spent on it, it was actually pretty easy to demonstrate that the pros of working with a partner like us, where we actually bring all of that experience to the table, outweighed the cons of, we're not going to take customers and move them from one brand to another. But even in that respect, the way we structure our business, I think gave them comfort. We operate, if you look at our UK, regional team, we've got dedicated ring-fenced commercial teams for each brand. They have separate marketing strategies, which is important, not just from a protection or brand separation perspective, but also from a differentiation perspective. Our products on BetVictor and the way we communicate that product through promotions or retention campaigns is very different than the way we talk to Heart Bingo customers or the way we talk to TalkSPORT Bet customers, particularly on TalkSPORT Bet, where we're trying to align that messaging or that tone of voice with the way that TalkSPORT speaks to their audience. From a commercial perspective, you really need to have that differentiation. So as we talked through that, I think it became clear that there was actually a benefit to doing it that way. And underneath the hood, so you have these separate commercial teams, but they all sit on top of a very well-developed infrastructure to support the UK market, where we've got a suite of shared services that are going to provide all of the operational capabilities, fraud and risk, customer support, all the sportsbook trading and risk management. They get the benefit of that really out of the box. So, in terms of a new brand in the UK, there's no need for them to scale up these operational teams to support it. And actually, on that point, I didn't mention compliance, but that's actually a really important
in the UK
facet of that. Certainly in the UK, where with the requirement to implement affordability and safer gambling, the small to medium-sized operators, you've seen them pull out of the market, or you've seen them, actively. I think you've seen even the large brands stay away from the UK market because their product's not compliant. They don't want to make that investment, or they don't want to go through all of the headaches that are required to operate a compliant service in the UK. So not only do we have that already, but when you look at how it gets implemented, so even the large operators in the UK, I think, have struggled with implementing affordability when they've grown through M&A. They now have separate databases on separate license, on separate tech stacks. How do you implement that across all of those different instances? It's very difficult, and you end up being forced to implement it through, what is probably more of a blunt approach than you want, where because we own all of our technology, we actually built all of our SG tools and affordability processes, in a way that is very personalized to each individual customer. And as we embarked on the multi-brand journey, we actually built out a single customer view. Before we launched, our first non-BetVictor UK brand, we already had the ability to look across all of an individual's accounts on different brands in the UK, separating the commercial aspect of it. But from an operational point of view, AML, KYC, affordability, we can actually look at a single customer across their multiple accounts, which allows us to take those compliance decisions in a way that best protects that customer. And that was super important to TalkSPORT, because not only are you protecting those customers, many of which have come from their brands, but part of the whole reason they want to launch their own brand is to build up their brand equity.
Yeah.
And as a partner, we need to make sure we're not jeopardizing that reputation, and we're helping them build that brand equity. And, how you implement, those compliance processes is very important in doing that.
Well, we're coming short on time now. So you've been up and running 12 months?
Not quite. So we announced the deal, I think, first week of August, and it was a very tight timetable. We wanted to go live before the World Cup. So it was not even 3.5 months between deal signing and taking TalkSPORT Bet live in the UK. So think you're...
Yeah, I was going to say, well, so how's it going? And, what's it
So
post?
I think both parties are very happy with it. The brand, we launched into the World Cup, obviously had that benefit around TalkSPORT being a, major place for people to engage and consume World Cup content. So we had that benefit, but the brand was profitable in the third full month of operation, which for a new brand in the UK, I think is probably surprising to many people, and has continued to grow since then. We're probably, depending on the metric, 5 to 6 months ahead of expectations versus our initial business plan.
That's a good place to be. We have got very little time, but I'm willing to go to the audience with some questions. Eddie's got a mic if you just want to put your hands up. Come on, I know it's not Slido. You can do it anonymously. Someone must have something to say. Okay, well, thanks very much, Brent. Thanks very much for being a good audience.
Thanks, Andy.
See you again.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News Network or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.